Hello and welcome to this episode of Content Marketing Commute. You've joined me as beautiful summery day here in Provence in the south of France. Look at all those flowers. Wow. And it's a warm day, so I'm wearing my Super Fun Marketing Podcast hat. If you haven't checked out the Super Fun Marketing Podcast, you need to. It's run by Victoria Sweeney, my sister-in-law. We're a podcasting family. I'll pop in the link to her show in the description. Check it out. But today, thank you for pressing play on this one. It's an About Last Week episode. On these About Last Week episodes, what we do is we just reflect on something that happened last week in the episode. Often these interview episodes we do, and last week was a great example, are so in-depth. There's so much great gold in there that I just always feel the need to record a bit of a follow-up where we dive into one specific topic, and we call that About Last Week. So here we are on this About Last Week episode. Beautiful sunny day in the south of France. Look at that. And obviously, to note, if you are just joining us on the podcasting apps, you can jump over to YouTube. The link is in the description, where you'll be able to see the sights of the south of France as I walk around my little neighborhood. So, without any further ado, last week on the podcast, I spoke with a guy by the name of Max Gayler. Max Gayler, Senior Content Strategist at Claap. Claap is essentially a meeting recording software for sales teams specifically, and it was such a cool episode. Max talked to me all about their content strategy, how they approach it, and specifically around this character he created called Ken Bleacher. And you're going to have to go back and watch the episode, listen to the episode, consume it in all its forms in order to get an idea of what I'm talking about there. But one particular thing I want to focus in on was a piece of that episode where Max said this.
I think people think like a good brand means a good reputation, and I totally disagree. I think a bad reputation could be your brand, and not that we're bad, not that we like bad boys of marketing, but like I would like this idea of making this like horrible character who's like an idiot, a bit arrogant, and I think being contrarian is like such an asset now.
And so it's this whole sense that sometimes when we're building a brand and content, obviously the best way to build your brand long term, you can feel like you need to be everything to everyone. And you need to be likable to everyone. But you know what that creates is something that's bland. Because, I saw this thing recently. It was like, why are you trying to get everyone to like you? You don't even like everyone. And I think that's true on a personal level. It's also true on a brand level, right? And I think as brands, we oftentimes are afraid to really take a stand, pick a side. And we want to be everything to everyone because, we know we have an ICP, we know we have personas to serve, but we don't want to be burning bridges, and we don't want anyone to be angry at us. And I think that's a mistake. And today I'm going to focus in on that today. Claap is one good example, and we talked about this with Max last week in Barcelona, by the way, a beautiful setting in Barcelona where we filmed that one. They do crazy stuff, they take a stand. And oftentimes, they even mention their competitors and stuff. So he talked a little bit about how they held a funeral for Loom when they got acquired. So one of their big competitors was Loom. And they literally filmed a video where they held a funeral for Loom saying, look, it's pretty much over for Loom now. And I kind of love that because is it going to annoy some people who love Loom? Probably. It's going to annoy Loom as well. But it's different and it's taking a stand. I've got a bit of a B2C example on this. A brand that really brings their kind of voice to life by being not necessarily nice all the time. And that's Ryanair. And you might know what I'm talking about when I talk about Ryanair. On social media especially, they're just unbelievable. And their brand is so cool and so differentiated because they literally roast people who tweet at me. And it's kind of like, is that a good idea? Maybe they've lost some fans on that, but the people who love them even more for it. And so I found this tweet the other day, sort of in research of this. Literally, this guy is tweeting at Ryanair saying, hey, any suggestions for tall people? What can, do you have bigger seats that I could book or whatever? And they reply, bend your knees. And I just freaking love it. Like, the classic model for an airline, and this can translate to B2B businesses and everything, is like, the customer's always right, and customer service is so important, and that's got to come through in your social media presence, and we got to say sorry, and we got to accommodate and everything. But I think when a brand comes to life in terms of doing something like that, the marketing potential and actually the fact that they've stuck to their guns and like they've really leaned into being kind of assholes is freaking awesome, and they become known for it. And no one's booking Ryanair because it's comfortable. No one's booking it because it's a great experience. They're booking it because it's cheap. And Ryanair knows that, and that's their brand. So they don't have to pretend that it's going to be comfortable. They can lean into the fact that it's kind of a rough experience, but it's cheap. And that's what they're all about. And so that actually got me thinking about a bunch of stuff I've read from a marketing hero of all of ours, Seth Godin. Name drop him there. Seth Godin, man, like, he had this thing, I remember reading about it, and I'm sorry if I'm misquoting it a little bit, but a lot of times when we launch a business or we're trying to grow our business, we can think, let's take this as wide as possible. Let's take this to the world. His thing is kind of flipping that on its head, and it's about finding your first 100 fans, right? It's either 100 or 1,000, I can't remember. But raving fans. Rather than trying to reach everyone all of a sudden, break it down and reach your first 100 raving fans, and do that by taking a stand. You're not trying to reach the world. Maybe one day you're going to be the Salesforce of the world, but today you're not. And the way to build that is not just to create something bland and not have a brand that's trying to be everything to everyone, but be something amazing to those first 100 people. Be the kind of brand that they want to be a part of, that they want to buy into. And then watch the kind of fire of word of mouth and virality take off when you have those 100, 1,000 real fans of your brand, a brand that kind of fits their personality, that has its own personality as well, and that's not afraid to take a stand and do things that have people stand up and take notice. So that's going to involve pissing some people off. And maybe that's okay. Like Ryanair, for example, they piss people off. And I kind of love it. And the people who want to fly Ryanair probably enjoy that, and it becomes part of the brand and it differentiates them in the space. And they kind of also lean into like what's negative about them. Maybe you can also just own up to the fact that, I don't know, your software is not the cheapest, or your software doesn't do one specific thing really well. Like, I think so much of this comes back to being brave enough to lean into the things that might not be everything to everyone, right? You can't cover all the bases. What are you great at? Call out the things you're bad at. Make a joke out of it. Make it part of your brand. I think brands who are brave enough to do that, I'm not saying everyone will do it, because if you're a business leader, that takes balls. That takes cojones to actually want and be able to do that and stick to it when you're probably getting some negative feedback as well. So that's sort of my simple thought on brand building. Don't try and be everything to everyone. Be something to someone. Be something to those first 100 people. Be something amazing to them. And then watch that virality and that word of mouth grow. Cheers, guys. This has been this episode of Content Marketing Commute, just about home. And I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend about the podcast. See ya.